For more than 200 years, a nation and a sport have been perpetually bound. The sport is speed skating, and its country of origin, the Netherlands. The Dutch flag is waved proudly over a litany of champions. Such luminaries as Art Schenk in the 1970s. More recently, Ivana van Hennep, triple gold medalist at the Calgary Olympics, and newly crowned world overall champion, Leo Visser. Even without a Dutch skater in contention for the sprint title, fans turned out in droves to cheer the likes of American Olympic hero, Dan Jansen. And Calgary gold medalist, Bonnie Blair. These Americans came to Heerenveen, Holland, to compete against the best in the world in the 1989 World Sprint Speedskating Championships, a meeting of the world's fastest men and women on the indoor ice of Tiof Arena. And hello again, everybody. I'm Tim Brandt. The World Sprints offered the last major competition of the speed skating season, and for the United States, a way to measure progress with the Olympic Games still 3 years down the road. For Bonnie Blair, it offered an opportunity because it's been 10 years since an American woman has won the World Sprint title. The last to do it, my colleague, Leah Poulos-Miller. Leah, tell us about Bonnie Blair.
Bonnie Blair won a gold and a bronze in Calgary, a feat fettered by her main rival, Christa Luding of East Germany. And that rivalry played again here. Luding has always been a strong physical competitor. Blair, by comparison, exemplifies grace and technical perfection. If any American were to reclaim the sprint title, none deserved it more than Bonnie Blair.
Now, for the men, Dan Jansen of the United States is the defending world sprint champion, and his story has been well documented. The entire world felt compassion last year for Dan Jansen when his sister died during the Olympic Winter Games. He fell twice during his strongest event in Calgary. So the question begs, Leah, can he recapture that form that won him this title?
Absolutely. But I think it's impossible for most people to fully understand how difficult it must have been for Dan Jansen to return to skating. It verifies the type of individual that he is to have come back stronger and more commanding than ever. But this was the most important test, not only for himself, but against the rest of the world.
65 skaters from 17 countries were on hand for the two-day competition. A 500 and 1,000-meter race were held each day with gold, silver, and bronze medals awarded with each event. But the most coveted title was that of the all-around champion, the skater with the lowest combined score when all four events were weighted equally. Bonnie Blair started the women's competition with the 500, certainly her best event. 16,000 fans were in Tiof Arena, sold out each day, an indoor arena.
Skating indoor is a definite advantage for Bonnie because she grew up in Champaign, Illinois, learning how to skate on an indoor hockey rink.
She was matched against Japan's Seiko Hashimoto. This race was a lap and a quarter around the 400-meter oval. 24 years of age, Blair won the gold in this event in Calgary, world record time of 39.10.
Unlike track and field, where everyone in the finals on the line at the same time was the first to cross the finish line winning, in the World Sprint Championships, the finalists skated two at a time, not necessarily against each other, but always against their most elusive rival, the clock.
Blair wanted to build an early lead in this event, not only over Hashimoto, but over East Germany's Christa Luding and Angela HAUCK.
Bonnie's technique is near perfect, and she made it look so effortless, not like a lot of skaters who sway all over the ice.
Blair's time was 39.47. It was a strong finish, the best run to that point.
Bonnie holds the world record in this event, partly because she's the fastest out of the blocks. The Flo-Jo of speed skating. She had the fastest start of all her opponents, and that was the edge that won her the 500-meter event.
So the first of four events meant gold for Bonnie Blair. But the 1,000 was a different story. This time it was Hashimoto against Christa Luding of East Germany. 2.5 laps around, and this was the bell lap.
Where Bonnie's strength was the 500-meter, Luding's strength was the 1,000-meter. She had won the gold in this event in Calgary.
Luding is 29 years of age, formerly Christa Rothenburger. Hashimoto almost fell on the last crossover.
Both skaters knew they had time to make up at this point. They were both aggressively attacking the ice, and Luding in her own style was swinging both arms in an effort to regain that valuable time.
The time she needed to beat to take the overall lead was 1:19.62. And she didn't get it. Luding's time was good enough for the gold in the 1,000, but to her it was still disappointing. It left her in third in the overall behind the other East German, Angela HAUCK. Bonnie Blair was still in the overall lead. Hashimoto was fourth. The other Americans, Tara Laszlo, Mary Doctor, and Peggy Klassen, were well back in the race. A race now that appeared to be Bonnie Blair's to control.
Being first after the first day is it's a good feeling. I've never been there before, so let's hope tomorrow goes just as well.
And while the Dutch crowd serenaded the Day 1 leader, Bonnie Blair sat back to watch as the men's championship unfolded. Dan Jansen, the crowd favorite, was up next. More from Heerenveen after this.
That's our flag.
Heerenveen is in the Dutch region called Friesland, where the way of life has changed as little as the love of skating through the years. Located about 75 miles northeast of Amsterdam, Heerenveen is normally on the route of the famed 11 cities race over the frozen canals in Holland. This year, the warm weather has changed the mode of transportation to the two-wheeled variety. But the thoughts in this town of 38,000 were of being one of the lucky few who crammed into the Tee-Off Arena. There, all eyes in the men's competition were on Dan Jansen, certainly one of the favorites going in. Dan Jansen had spent this season recovering from the tragedy of last year. His sister Jane died on the day of the Olympic 500 meters. And now, the image of what happened will never be forgotten. Four days later, in the 1,000, it happened again. Jansen entered this year's sprints with something to prove.
September through December was the hardest time because getting back on the ice, and I was up in Calgary at school, so it was kind of hard to, focus on just one thing and try to keep my mind focused toward the Worlds. But after I got through that time, it's slowly been getting better, and I've been skating better as a result.
In Jansen's first event on day 1, the 500, he finished third. In the second race, the 1,000, he was matched against the current leader, Igor Zhelesovski. The Soviet felt right at home on this oval. In 1985, he won the World Sprint title here in Heerenveen, but then it was outdoors. Zhelezovski is 25 years of age from Minsk, 6'1 and a half, 205-pounder. He took a bronze in this event in Calgary. Dan Jansen won this race last year at the World Sprints in West Dallas, Wisconsin.
Speed skating is becoming very specialized. Most skaters concentrate on either the sprints or the distances. That's why we didn't see the world overall champions like Leo Visser or Constance Moser here. In Heerenveen, it was only for the sprint specialists.
The world record in this event is 1:12.58, set by Pavel Pegov of the Soviet Union back in 1983. Zhelezovski was on that schedule, and the crowd knew it.
Although Zhelezovski and Jansen have been consistently good, they're not really designed for the 500-meter. They're more suited to the 1,000-meter. Picture someone like a Roger Craig of the 49ers trying to motor around a quarter-mile track of ice at 35 miles per hour on steel blades a 1/16 of an inch thick. Although that's not easy, Zhelezovski and Jansen are specialists at it.
Zhelezovski was on a world record pace. Jansen slipped in the last turn, but the time to beat for Zhelezovski, 1:12.58. He tied the oldest world record in the books.
This is such a precision sport that most skaters skate through the finish line as if the line were another yard away. Had Zhelezovski taken one more stroke, he may have owned that world record all by himself. It's hard to be flawless at 35 miles per hour. Watch Dan Jansen in that final turn. He was lucky to regain composure and finish with a respectable time.
So Igor Zhelesovski captured the 1,000-meter gold in world record time, more than a second ahead of Andrei BAKHVALOVUSSR. American Eric Flame was third, with Jansen sixth. That was a personal best time for Jansen despite the slip. And speaking of slips, watch Eric Flame on the right. He faced near disaster against Uwe Jens Mai in his first 1,000-meter race.
Flame knew this race was close enough to win, but he'd expended all his energies and couldn't get his legs to move any faster. He still just edged out Mai.
And so the standings after day 1 showed Zhelezovski with a solid lead over both Mai and the other Soviet. The Americans, Dan Jansen, Nick Thomas, and Eric Flame, were all still very much in medal contention. David Cruikshank of the United States was in 15th place. Day too began with Jansen harboring thoughts of moving up, but he had some catching up to do with the leaders, Zhelezovski and Mai, who were matched up in the 500. And quite honestly, Mai had some catching up to do himself. Mai is 25 years of age. He set the world record of 36.45 while winning gold at Calgary.
Mai exploded off the start, and his 100-meter time was faster than Ben Johnson ran in Seoul.
This was Zhelezovski's most dangerous race as well.
Many people thought that Zhelezovski might fall because he was notorious for not being able to negotiate that last inner turn with his size and speed. And Mai, on a world record pace, was trying to increase the pressure on Zhelezovski, but he was not flustered.
36.45 is the world record. Mai finished 1/100th of a second off of that mark. The crowd appreciated the effort, but Mai knew he hadn't picked up enough ground on Zhelezovski, who finished with the third best time in the 1,000. So after 3 races, Zhelezovski had all but clinched the overall title, and the battle shifted to bronze as Jansen tried to hold off Andrei BAKHVALOVUSSR. At that point, Dan Jansen knew he had lost his title. Now the question was, could he win the bronze?
Dan Jansen still was under a lot of pressure because he was matched up with the man who could knock him out of any medal.
We picked up the race with a lap and a half left, 600 meters to go. BAKHVALOVUSSR finished 11th in this event last year at the Olympics. He was a long shot. Jansen lost his balance in the last turn.
BAKHVALOVUSSR knew he needed to beat Dan Jansen. He knew he needed to beat him by exactly 37/100ths of a second to win the bronze. How an athlete rises to the pressure separates the champions from the participants. And Dan Jansen had added pressure. Not only did Dan have the pressure of the actual competition, but he had to show the world he could come back a champion. And that, for anyone, was physically and mentally exhausting.
It was a race for third, a race for bronze. The Soviet had to win by over 1/3 of a second. His time, 1:13.44 to Jansen's 1:14.02. The Soviet knew right away that was good enough for the bronze. The final overall standing showed Zhelezovski winning, Mai second, and BAKHVALOVUSSR third. Jansen, along with Nick Thomas and Flame, all finished in the top 7, with David Cruikshank 13th. But for Jansen, a repeat title was not to be.
No, I'm not disappointed. I skated a great 500 today, and 1,000 was, it felt better than the time was. So, I skated a decent meet. 3 guys beat me. I don't have any excuses.
But the story of this event was the performance of Zhelezovski. He won 3 of the 4 races and the title with the best performance in sprint championship history. It was the 3rd world sprint title for the Soviet, who in the spirit of Holland thoroughly enjoyed the celebration. Bonnie Blair and the story of the final day of women's competition still to come. Faithful knew just how precarious a position this could be. As they entered the final 500, only a 1/4 of a second separated first from third. HAUCK and Christa, the East Germans, were in hot pursuit. For Bonnie Blair, the pressure was mounting to hold off an East German charge, similar to an experience she encountered at Calgary just 1 year ago.
I always thought the East Germans as the machines, the unbeatable things on skates. But it's such a fast race, you never know what's going to happen. You pretty much have to go on automatic pilot. Things just have to come naturally. I think when I came across the line, that was probably the happiest moment of my life.
It wasn't a race, it was a dream.
It was a dream, and sometimes I have to pinch myself to make sure that that was real, and it did happen.
Bonnie's dream come true was one of only 2 U.S. triumphs at the Winter Games. The other being the much-celebrated victory of world champion Brian Boitano, who parlayed Olympic gold into commercial gold.
You've just won an Olympic gold medal. What are you going to do next? I'm going to go to Disney World.
Despite her equally impressive achievement, Bonnie received only a flurry of endorsement opportunities.
Fortunately, I had family and friends who believed in me. What I achieved would have been impossible without their support along the way.
While Brian Boitano retired and went to Disney World, Bonnie Blair went back to the real world of Butte, Montana, the site of the United States High Altitude Training Center. Despite having already reached the golden pinnacle of her sport, Bonnie decided to continue on in a world of solitude and precision.
The biggest thing about Bonnie is she really loves skating. I mean, even after winning a gold medal and whatever, she still likes to come out here and go round and round in circles. I think she just plain old enjoys the sport.
I like the competition, and I think that's what keeps me going. I enjoy the competition that much that's why it was hard to say goodbye to it after last year, and that's why I'm back again this year.
This year, the Olympic champion has lightened her training schedule, spending more time coaching younger teammates and giving speeches preaching the world, according to Bonnie.
It's very important. You just keep trying to climb that ladder to get to that point where I'm going to try to get that Olympic medal. And I haven't won the World Championships. That's something I'd like to do. And maybe if things go my way, I'd like to be the first woman to skate a 38-second 500. 1992 is a little bit too far away to say I am going to be skating the Olympics then. Right now, I'm just taking it year by year and day by day, and we'll see what happens.
For her third event of the competition, Blair, a student at Montana Tech, was back in the race of her Olympic glory, the 500. Her opponent, HAUCK, the former Angela Stonka. 23 years of age, she placed second in this competition in 1985 in Heerenveen.
Bonnie's a great pressure skater, and she knew she had to skate another consistently terrific race to keep her lead. But that pressure didn't shake her. This was her best race, and the one she had the most control of.
Both were skating well. After the first 100 meters, they were virtually equal, separated by only 7/100ths of a second heading into the backstretch.
Maintaining composure at that high speed is not easy, and Bonnie made a serious mistake.
Blair said later she didn't think she'd fall there. She knew it, but somehow she kept her skates and still had a good race going. Blair needed a 39.82 in the event to keep the lead over Luding. And the crowd knew Bonnie Blair still had the lead. She did it with a 39.54 to 39.77 for HAUCK. And so the standings showed HAUCK dropped to third, and Luding, whose strength was the 1,000, the final event, had moved to second. Now Luding would be matched against Ingrid HARING, the 24-year-old from down the road in Amsterdam. This was the final lap. HARING had set a personal best in the first day's 1,000, but Luding was flying.
Luding knew she was capable of beating Bonnie Blair by enough to win the title, and in her mind, her pair played no part. She had been a traditionally strong, physical skater, and she skated before Bonnie Blair, so she knew she had to set a mark that was impossible to beat.
Luding is the first person ever to win a Winter and Summer Olympic medal in the same year. The Summer Games she won in cycling.
Realistically, I would have expected Luding to skate in the low 120s to put the pressure on Blair.
It was her last chance at the overall gold. Luding's time of 120.15 not only put the pressure on Blair, but on Luding's countrywoman, Angela HAUCK. HAUCK was paired against Japan's Seiko Hashimoto in the 1,000. HAUCK had to put it all on the line. She had to go all out.
HAUCK had the fastest time until this point. She was thinking gold medal, but she was trying for too much, and the worst happened.
So HAUCK was out of the title chase. She ended up finishing second to last in the competition. Bonnie Blair knew exactly what she had to do to win the all-around title. Her opponent in the 1,000 was MSA Namath of Austria. This was the final lap. Blair needed a 120.70 to win.
Blair knew that if she relied on her technique, she could stay within the time limit she needed to win. She had skated 3 solid races, and she just needed one more, and the title was hers. The pressure now came from within, and she was an expert at dealing with that.
The final 50 meters, she was on a winning pace. She needed a 120.70. She got it. Her time, 120.37. What a marvelous performance.
I've known that feeling of satisfaction, that smile that reflects it all. After finishing second and third, Bonnie Blair finally reclaimed the World Sprint title for the United States.
So Bonnie Blair became the first American woman in 10 years to win the World Sprint title. Luding second, Hashimoto third. The rest of the Americans finished well back. For Bonnie Blair, the best women's sprint performance in history.
Now that you're the winner after 10 years of a drought, what's going through your mind?
Well, I think one thing that's really nice is that it seems like we've finally broken the East German domination, and we've finally gotten some other countries to be able to win world championships, and I'm glad that I did that to show the other girls they can do it too.
And where do you go from here?
From here, I go back to school.
So for Bonnie Blair, no trip to Disney World, but a final victory lap as 1989 World Sprint Speedskating Champion. For Leopoldus Miller, I'm Tim Brandt in Heerenveen, the Netherlands. Winterfest continues after this word from your local station.